Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, kembali with me Deviana Azzahroh. On this occasion, I will discuss about Firewall connection state 2. Connection state is a firewall feature where ping packets from client to router will be blocked, while ping packets from router to client will be shipped. This topology. Before configure the connection step to firewall, here I have configured internet access first. The first, configure ISP router. Here, we do is to check the interface that will be used with the command interface print. Here, we can see I use Ether 1 for laptop, Ether 2 for our client Deviana, and WLAN 1 for IP. Make a DHCP client request using the interface that leads to the internet, namely WLAN 1. Enter the command IP DHCP client at interface WLAN 1 disabled no. Enter. And check with the command IP DHCP client print. Because status is searching, we type again. Here, we can see here I get address 192.168.1.45/24 with bound status. After that, we do test by pinging Google. Enter the command ping google.com. Here we can see that the result is reply, which means we are connected to the internet. Here we configure the IP address for the Ether 2 interface using the command IP address at address 192.168.30.1/24 interface Ether 2. Enter. And don't forget to check with the command IP address print. We can see that we have successfully added the IP address with the interface Ether 2. Next, here I will configure IP DHCP server setup. We'll configure IP DHCP server setup, which aims to distribution IP address to client. From configure, type the command IP DHCP server print. IP DHCP server setup. DHCP server interface means that we are asked to choose which interface we will use for the DHCP server. Here I use Ether 2. Third, DHCP address page means the network exit by default is 192.168.30.0/24. Next, gather from the DHCP network gateway server from distribution to client laptops. Accessment gateway from DHCP 192.168.80.1. Next, address to give out is default, and then as servers, then as configure, I use the open source IP, which is egg.egg.egg.egg.egg. Enter. Lead time server or time limit from client. Here give 10 minutes, meaning that every 10 minutes the IP will be changed. Then we check using the command IP IP DHCP server print. And we can see that we have successfully configured the DHCP server to share the IP address for the client. Next, we configure the NAT firewall so that it can connect to the internet network using the command IP firewall NAT chain src NAT with auth interface. The auth interface we use is the interface that is connected to the internet, namely VLAN 1. Next action, we make masquerade. If you have checked it using the command IP firewall NAT print, we can see that we have successfully configured the chain src NAT with action masquerade and with auth interface is VLAN 1. Next, move kabel UTP to router client. We login, we connect with the identity our client Deviana. We connect. There we move to router client. The first step is to check with the interface using the command interface print. Here I use two interfaces where Ether 1 is connected to the laptop and Ether 2 is connected to the router ISP. Next, here I will configure the DHCP client with function to request the IP address of the ISP router that will previously configure the DHCP server setup. To make an IP request, make sure that we use the interface that is connected to the ISP router, namely Ether 2, with the command IP DHCP client at interface Ether 2 disabled no. Enter. And after that, check using the command IP DHCP client print. And we can see here that the router client managed to get the IP address 192.168.18.254/24 using the interface Ether 2. After that, we do the test by pinging Google. Enter the command ping google.com. Here we can see that the result is a reply, which means we are connected to the internet. Next, we configure the NAT firewall so that it can connect to the internet network using the command IP firewall NAT chain src NAT without interface Ether 2 and action masquerade. If you have checked using the command IP firewall NAT print, we can see that we have successfully configured the IP firewall NAT. Next, configure the IP address for interface Ether 1. by using the command ip address we make to address xt.xt.xt.1/24 interface ether1. And don't forget to check with the command ip address print. We can see that we have successfully added the IP address with the ether1 interface. Next, we make the firewall filter by using the command ip firewall filter input with an interface ether2 connection connection stage is established and relate with action achieved. And don't forget to click command. We make command ISP paket input. Next, IP firewall filter a chain input in interface ether2 connection state connected state is I make to invalid with action drop, and we add to command drop invalid packets. And then we type IP firewall filter a chain input with an interface ether2 with an interface we make to ether2. Next action we make to drop log yes log prefix we make name packets paste. Don't forget to comment. We make all packets paste. Enter. Next, we check using the command IP firewall filter print. We can see that we have successfully created 3 IP firewall filter. Next, verify the packets from the main router by performing an ICMP packets from the ISP router to the client router. Here, we can check IP address obtained by the client router from the DHCP client using the command IP address print. And we can see that the IP address obtained is. Next, we send the ICMP for the ISP router to the client router. Before, we move to UTP cable to router ISP. Cancel. We log in with the router ISP. We click with the command ping 192.168.80.254. We can see the result of the request timeout, which means the rule we created before has been successful. Verify packet from the client router to the ISP router. Here we check it using the ISP router with the command IP address print. And we can see that the IP address we get is 192.168.80.1/24. Next, send the ICMP packet from the client router to the ISP router. We move to cable UTP to router client. Enter the command ping 192.168.80.1. We can see that the result is a reply, which means the client router has successfully sent the ICMP packet to the ISP router. Next, we add a rule to that the ISP router can send ICMP packet using the command IP firewall filter add chain input with protocol ICMP with an interface letter 2 ICMP obtains is egg 0 and action achieved. Then we check using the command IP firewall filter print. We can see that we have successfully added the IP firewall filter. After that, we move the rule that we just created before under the invalid packet drop rule using the GUI. Click IP, click firewall, click filter rules. We move to access drop to Next, here we send ICMP packets from the ISP router to client router. Before we test the ping with the router ISP, we choose kabel UTP to router ISP. We click cancel and log in with the router ISP. Click connect. Type the command ping 192.168.80.254. Sorry. We can see that resolve is reply, which means the ISP router has successfully sent ICMP packet to client router. If can see the log section with the router client. We move again kabel UTP to router client. With the command log print. Here we can see that the three are notification as achieved packets. Thank you so much and hopefully useful. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.